Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're taking a deep dive into how AI is changing the professional world,
Absolutely.
from creative fields to the way we hire, and even the ethical concerns that are coming up.
Yeah, what's so interesting is all this stuff you sent us, it really dives deep into these big questions.
It does, and it feels like everyone's talking about AI right now, but these sources really help break it all down.
It is a lot to break down.
It is.
It feels like every day there's a new headline about some new AI.
Exactly. And one of the first things that jumped out at me from the sources was how AI is transforming the creative world.
Hmm.
Music, art, you name it. We're talking AI composing film scores, generating crazy realistic images, even writing scripts.
And that's what's really mind-blowing is like what even I's creative expertise anymore.
Right. Like I was messing around with one of those AI art generators, the kind where you type in like a cat riding a unicorn on the moon,
Oh, yeah.
and it actually made a pretty awesome
It's
picture.
kind of scary how good they're getting.
It is. But then it made me think, wait, what happens to actual artists?
Yeah.
Like ones who spent years honing their craft.
That's the big question, right? And some folks are saying, hey, AI is just another tool. Like, you know how photography changed painting?
Hmm.
Or how electric guitars changed music.
Yeah.
But then others, they're worried it'll devalue human skill.
Like, will anyone need to learn to play an instrument or paint if AI can just do it all?
Exactly. And what will it mean for jobs in those fields? Is it all just going to be AI? And there's a lot of debate about that in the sources.
And the whole copyright thing. If an AI makes a song that sounds exactly like, say, the Beatles, who owns that? The person who typed it into the AI, the company that made the AI.
That's where it gets really tricky. And the sources get into all these legal gray areas. It's fascinating.
It is. It's like we're making up the rules as we go along.
Totally. And speaking of changing rules, we got to talk about how AI is shaking up hiring.
Oh, yeah, those applicant tracking systems, ATS.
Right. They're in one of the sources you sent, and it's crazy how they're basically deciding who even gets a chance.
It's like instead of a person looking at your resume, it's an algorithm.
Exactly. Now, on one hand, they say it makes things more efficient, less bias.
Because a computer program shouldn't care about your race or gender or whatever, right?
In theory, yeah. But the source points out, what if the data the AI learned from was already biased?
Hmm. So, like, if a company has mostly hired men for a certain job in the past,
Then the AI might keep recommending more men, even if there are great women who apply.
wow. So it's like the AI could actually make the problem worse.
That's the worry. And it gets into this whole thing about algorithmic fairness. Like, how do we make sure AI is actually fair?
It seems almost impossible to teach a computer program to be fair when humans can barely figure it out.
Right. It's tricky. The source talks about trying to audit these algorithms, making sure they're trained on diverse data, but
It's still a work in progress.
definitely. So while these AI hiring tools might save time, we got to be super careful they're not making things less equal.
For sure. It's like good intentions, but unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you think about the bigger picture, right? What does AI mean for the entire workforce, not just specific jobs?
One of the sources tackled that head on, and it didn't sugarcoat things,
No, it was pretty intense. It's like, we hear AI is going to take all our jobs.
right? Robots are coming for us,
Exactly. But this source was more nuanced. Yes, some jobs will be lost for sure.
like manufacturing, truck driving, things that can be automated, right?
Right. But then it also talked about all these new jobs being created in AI development, data science, AI ethics even.
So it's not as simple as AI equals no jobs.
Nope. The source was saying it's more about AI changing the kinds of jobs we do.
Like maybe instead of factory workers, we'll need more people who can design and fix the robots,
Or people who can train the AI or make sure it's being used ethically, all that stuff.
which means we'll need to be constantly learning new skills, adapting to the new landscape.
Exactly. That was a big theme in the source, the idea of lifelong learning, always upskilling, being flexible.
It makes you think, what skills should I be learning now that'll be useful in 5, 10 years? What's going to be AI proof,
And the source had some interesting thoughts on that, like emphasizing creativity, critical thinking.
right? Those things AI isn't so good at yet.
Yeah. Like an AI can crunch numbers all day, but it can't write a compelling story or come up with a truly innovative marketing campaign.
It's almost like AI is forcing us to become more human.
I like that, to focus on what makes us unique.
Exactly. But it also makes me wonder, what about all the ethical stuff? Like, is it right to let AI make decisions about who gets hired or fired?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And what about the potential for AI to be used for surveillance or to spread misinformation?
All of that's in the sources, and it's kind of scary, to be honest.
It is, like deepfakes, for example, where someone's face is put on someone else's body.
Oh, yeah, those are freaky.
They're getting so realistic it's hard to tell what's real anymore. What if someone uses that to spread lies or manipulate people?
And the source got into algorithmic bias, too, how AI can perpetuate existing inequalities if we're not careful.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface of all the ethical dilemmas that AI is bringing up.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. But the source does emphasize that we have a choice.
We do.
We can choose how we develop AI, how we use it, what kind of future we want to create with it.
That's a good point. It's not like AI is this unstoppable force that's just going to happen to us.
Right, we have agency. We can guide it, shape it, make sure it benefits humanity.
So what can we actually do to make sure that happens? We'll explore that after a quick. It's almost like we're standing at this crossroads with AI, you know?
Yeah.
On one hand, it's this amazing tool, this incredible potential, but on the other hand,
It's scary.
yeah, it's scary. Like, are we all going to be out of jobs? Are robots going to take over the world?
Right, and one of the sources you sent, it really dug into this whole idea of like, how do we prepare for this future? How do we navigate an AI-powered world?
Because it's changing so fast, right? What we learn today might be obsolete tomorrow.
Exactly. And that source, it kept emphasizing this idea of like continuous learning, always being adaptable.
Always be learning, always be adapting. It's like the new motto for the 21st century.
Right. And it made me think, okay, but learning what? What are the skills that are going to be valuable in this AI-driven world?
Yeah, like should we all just become programmers?
Well, it's interesting because that source, it actually talked about focusing on the things that AI can't do,
Like what?
like creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, emotional intelligence.
So basically, all the things that make us human.
Exactly. Things like empathy, leadership, those are going to be more valuable than ever.
Because an AI can analyze a spreadsheet, but it can't inspire a team.
Or negotiate a deal, or comfort a patient.
Right, and those are the things that AI, at least for now, can't replicate.
Right. So it's not just about technical skills, it's about those human skills.
It's almost like AI is forcing us to become more human, to focus on what makes us unique.
I love that. And one of the sources had this great example. Imagine a doctor using AI to diagnose a patient.
Oh,
AI could look at scans, blood work, all that data, but it can't really connect with the patient.
right. It can't understand their fears, their hopes, their individual circumstances.
Exactly. So the doctor, the human doctor, uses the AI as a tool, but then they use their empathy and their experience
To make the final call.
to explain things to the patient, to create a treatment plan that actually works for them.
So it's like a partnership.
Exactly. Humans and AI working together, each bringing their strengths to the table.
And that idea of partnership, it seems like it's going to be key in all sorts of fields.
Absolutely. Think about like lawyers using AI to research case law,
Okay.
but then using their own judgment and experience to build a legal strategy.
Or architects using AI to design buildings, but then relying on their creativity to make them beautiful and functional.
Right. It's all about collaboration, leveraging the best of both worlds.
But for that to work, it feels like we need a major mindset shift.
Definitely. We can't think of AI as the enemy.
We have to see it as a partner.
A tool that can help us do our jobs better, not replace us entirely.
But that also means we need to be willing to adapt, to learn new things, to keep up with the changes.
Lifelong learning, remember, that source was all about it. And it's not just about individual learning, it's about organizations stepping up too.
So companies need to invest in training their employees, helping them develop these new skills.
Exactly. And they need to create a culture where it's okay to experiment with AI, to try new things, to maybe even fail sometimes.
Because that's how we learn, right? By trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't.
Right. And speaking of trying things out, one of the sources had this whole section on ethics.
Oh yeah, the ethics of AI. Like,
Right.
how do we make sure AI is being used responsibly? How do we avoid those scary scenarios we were talking about earlier?
The robots taking over.
Yes.
Right. And it's not just about preventing the worst case scenarios. It's about making sure AI is being used for good.
Like making sure it's fair, that it's not discriminating against certain groups of people.
Exactly. And making sure it's transparent so we understand how it's making decisions.
Because if we don't understand how AI is working, how can we trust it?
Exactly. And this source, it talked about the need for regulations, for ethical guidelines, for people who are thinking about these issues.
Like AI ethicists.
Yeah, people whose job it is to make sure AI is being developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the human choices we make about how to use it.
Exactly. And this source, it made this really interesting point about education.
Oh, like, what should we be teaching kids about AI?
Yeah, it said we need to start teaching kids about AI early on, not just the technical stuff.
Well, like, the ethical stuff, too.
Right, like how to use AI responsibly, how to think critically about it, how to be good digital citizens in an AI-powered world.
It's like AI literacy.
Exactly. It needs to become as fundamental as reading or math.
Because AI is going to be part of their lives, no matter what they do.
Right. And it made me think, it's not just about kids, it's about all of us.
We all need to be AI literate.
We need to be informed, engaged, and ready to adapt.
Because AI is not just a technology, it's a societal shift.
It's a new way of thinking, a new way of working, a new way of living, really.
So knowing all that, what can we as individuals do to prepare for this AI-powered future? Let's get into that after a quick. So we've talked a lot about AI in the workplace, the good, the bad, the potentially robot-y.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
But now let's get down to brass tacks. What does all this mean for you listening right now?
Because, you came to us with all these sources wanting to know, how do I actually deal with AI in my own career?
Right. It's one thing to talk about AI in general, but another to figure out, okay, what do I do on Monday morning?
Exactly. So let's say you're, I don't know, a graphic designer and you're hearing about AI making art.
You're probably freaking out a little bit.
Right. Are you obsolete now? Is your job over? Well, not necessarily.
Remember, we talked about AI being a tool.
Right. It's not inherently good or bad. It's how you use it.
So instead of being scared of that AI art generator, what if you learn to use it?
Yeah. Make it work for you.
Let it handle the boring stuff, like resizing images or making variations.
And that frees you up to focus on the creative stuff, the stuff AI can't do.
The stuff that requires human taste, judgment, that spark of brilliance.
Exactly. And this applies to all kinds of jobs, not just creative ones.
If you're in sales, use AI to analyze customer data, find patterns.
If you're a teacher, use AI to personalize lessons for each student.
It's about becoming AI savvy in your own field.
Knowing what tools are out there, what they're good at, what their limitations are.
And figuring out how you can use them to your advantage.
Make yourself more valuable, not less.
And remember, don't neglect those uniquely human skills.
The creativity, the critical thinking, the emotional intelligence, all that good stuff.
Because those are the things that set you apart from a machine.
They're what make you irreplaceable.
It's like AI can write a decent email, but it can't build a real relationship with a client.
Or give a motivational speech or lead a team through a crisis.
Right. So keep honing those human skills because they're only going to become more important.
They're your superpower in this new world.
It's not about fighting AI, it's about figuring out how to work with it.
Becoming a team, each playing to our strength.
And that takes a willingness to learn, to adapt, to maybe even reinvent yourself along the way.
Continuous learning, remember. It's not just a buzzword, it's the key to survival in this new landscape.
So to wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge.
A call to action.
Think about everything we've discussed today, all the possibilities, the challenges, the opportunities.
And ask yourself this. What's one concrete step you can take this week to prepare for your AI-powered future?
It could be reading an article, trying out a new AI tool, talking to someone in your field who's already using AI.
Anything that gets you moving in the right direction.
Because the future isn't something that just happens to us.
We have a say in it.
We have the power to shape it, to use AI for good, to create a world where technology makes our lives better.
More fulfilling, more meaningful.
So go out there, embrace the challenge, and let's build that future together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a blast exploring these ideas with you.